So I've talked with thousands of investors, and in my 12 plus years of experience in investing and trading, there are a few instances throughout those years where there's been markets that are way more opportunity than risk. Markets where the returns are so much greater in potential than that of the risk. And one of the markets that we recently saw emerged, definitely you see the AI market big time, but also we're talking about the data center markets. Now, the data center markets have been growing fast. If you guys have seen the channel, we're going fast as well, up to 30,000 subscribers. We're on the road to 50,000. Thanks so much. Like and subscribe if you do enjoy. We're going to talk about some of the top data center companies that we currently have positions in, and as well as the ones that are just starting to get some traction into 2026. And I'm going to start it off here with some of the top companies that you should be considering, or at least be aware of if you're investing in today's world. And one of those companies is going to be APLD. APLD is definitely going to be a top company to be watching right now. They've been on a surge from $3 a share up to $35 a share. And if there was one thing about investing that you don't want to miss, it, a lot of the best investors are catching right now that it's not necessarily investing in the AI directly. It's not investing in the robotics directly or the software directly. If you're trying to grow in this AI boom that we're in, you actually should be looking, and this is what the best investors that I've talked to, again, I've talked with literally thousands of investors in the last year, and the best ones that I've talked to have an edge in that they're looking at this data center market, because the data center market ultimately is going to build the infrastructure and the power and the energy as well. So there's also some energy components in some of these companies that you'll notice that is basically going to be the infrastructure for AI to function. And so if you had to, pick one, it'd probably be the company that you have the most big tech relying on, that's the smallest, the cheapest, and has the best value. But I'm going to just share with you all of them. So one of them, again, APLD stock, we've seen them, surge up to $40 a share. They're in the top conversation. They're still fairly low in their market cap compared to some of the deals. They're around $10 billion market cap. They've got $15 billion in deals, so they've got some good momentum. Another one, CIFR. This is going to be CIFR Mining. It's a company that's transitioning from previously being a Bitcoin miner to getting into the markets of the data center market. And you can see they're also in an uptrend over the last year from $2 a share, peaking out around $25 a share, and currently down near kind of a support level. You see this rising support here and targets as high as $26, which would be about a 56% increase from here. Some of the other companies we got in our data center watch list that you'd want to at least consider. Now, again, I'm not gonna overwhelm you, and I'm not gonna pretend to know that every single one of these is a winner. I'm just sharing with you, in my experience, some of the companies we've invested in, some of the ones that have had the greatest returns over the last year, and then hopefully that can give you some more insight into where the market's moving. Now, you guys might have noticed this t-shirt, prophecy t-shirt, or sweatshirt. The other thing I like to use is I like to use AI. Now, I'm not here to sell you the AI, although if you want to take a look at it, it's the first link in the description below. You could search up any stock. So, if we were to just jump in with CIFR here, let's get some analysis on CIFR Mining. You can see some of the projections are up to 7 or 8% over the next month, according to the AIs. Now, again, I'm not going to pretend that the AIs are 100% accurate, but I can tell you that they are getting better and better, and we're starting to track the results, and that's why I use it, because some things are factual, like the supports and the resistance, the financials, the press releases directly from the company, the SEC filings. These are not fabricated, they're not manipulated. In a sense, they are just straight from the source. And so when looking just straight from the source here, CIFR Mining, they've got some bullish momentum with projections, and this is rare. Projections of up to 50% gain over the next year here in 2026. 50% gain, that's the world we're living in. A 50% potential gain. And we're seeing this on a lot of companies. So CIFR, we just talked about it. You could see this 50% potential gain up here in their overall trend. That's what the AI is just actually saying. So you got CIFR, they're converting from the Bitcoin to the data centers. Another company that we're watching closely, we said APLD. Another one that we're watching closely here is IREN. Now, when I first discovered this stock, I thought it was all hype. It was back here maybe July, August of 2025, and everybody was saying I ran. What I realized is that we have a large portion of our audience here on YouTube that are already heavily exposed to some of the best companies in AI, and that you here, if I were to go to Stock Meet, which again, not going to pretend, this is something I use every single day. We're there. You got some investors in here that have a net worth of into the millions of dollars here, and they've been talking about some of these top companies in the data center market for months now. You got BITF is another one. You have some of the other companies. If we were to scroll down, while Lawrence is doing a lot here, and so is Arsphere, Planet Labs. You got some other ones. Prophecy app. People are talking about the Prophecy app. I love it. But if you go into the trends, right? We look at the trends, the technicals. You see a lot of analytical stuff. Data centers are growing. We can look at the financials. You see their financials are favorable, meaning they're getting more contracts. But it doesn't matter. None of that matters if you don't have the underlying infrastructure that they're powering. And that's what we see right now. This is the story, is that, with AI demand, you're going to see it's the same way energy demand is increasing, mineral demand is increasing. The data centers are going to see that growth. They're already seeing that growth. I read recently pulling back from 58 down to 49. They've got a very consistent kind of uptrend in this greater uptrend. So their next target is going to be up to $56 to $60 a share here, which would be about a 20% increase on IREN. They're building the data centers for Microsoft, Google. I don't think it's Amazon, but you have some other ones that are building for Amazon as well here. So IREN is one. And again, I'm not going to pretend that this is exactly what they're going to do. All I can tell you is these are some of the ones that are growing the fastest and have the financials to back it up. They are not on this list unless they have some financials that are backing them up. And the other one, Nebius. This is another company that, if you had to know just, let's say, 5 data center stocks, Nebius is one of them. Nebius is building the data centers for some of the top companies in the world. If you searched up their company on Google, something like that, you'd probably see infrastructure of AI, GPU clusters. Some of their latest updates are partnered with Nvidia. So Nvidia is making that possible for them. They also have some side businesses that they run. But for the most part, what we're talking about here is, a large increase in the demand for their services. We saw their financials come out. They've been crushing their financials, meaning they're doing really good. And it's just a part of this AI demand. So while they've gone from a couple dollars a share to now $99 a share, they also have this overall uptrend, and they're in an uptrend they just pulled back into yesterday. You can see this trend here that is starting to develop. The financial markets here, this is a company that would compound probably over the next few years, 6 to 18 months, but in the short term, offering some margins for profit here, potentially, up into this $120 range. If you see that trend continue with some risk levels to watch around 95, that's a 20% increase right there. So it might be helpful to pull up IREN. But here's the thing, when we're looking at these companies, a lot of investors are investing in data centers. A lot of investors are looking at the minerals. Is there an advantage? A lot of people, they look at the companies that nobody's talking about just for the sake of the fact that nobody's talking about them. But not always is that the case. In fact, a lot of times, if nobody's talking about it, sometimes that's actually not a good sign. It means that there's nothing there and that you're looking at something that's not there. There are times, I'd say probably about 10 to 15% of the time, just from my own experience, where I've noticed that people, when they find stocks that haven't yet been discovered, that could be a good thing, and that they're actually there before the institutions. But institutions also have tremendous amount of scanners, and they're looking at the markets very closely. IREN, for example, I mean, if you look at some of the projections, 22% into the next month. 1 year here is 38% gain, looking at some levels with a $50 support level to watch on IREN. Similar projections when we're looking at Nebius as well. They've got some green. Now, in the short term, once again, can we see some pullbacks? Of course. In the long term, in this medium term here, though, things are looking pretty good. NBIS is one. Another one that we just saw some talk about inside of StockMe would be BITF. BITF is another one. So again, we went over, 1, 2, 3, 4, we're around 5 or 6 right now, and some other ones to watch. BITF, you got the conversion for Bitcoin mining into the AI markets. And they haven't seen a lot of revenue increases, but they've also pulled back pretty significantly. They're selling back down to this support level around 250. You can see them here. It's a previous resistance. And if they can hold that level without selling back down to 220, we're looking at a 15 to 30% potential increase on BITF. So you got BITF, you got some of these other companies. CLSK is another one. TSSI, this is a company I've been following for a while. I really like this. We recently had a couple $1,000s in a small trade. And we made a couple $1,000s as well. And we saw them pull back from around $12 a share down to $10 a share. And they're kind of consolidating now. Now, they are in an overall uptrend, but if you look at how much they've pulled back big time from levels of around $25 a share to now holding around 10 to 11. And they've recently made a run from around 5 to 11, but they're still targeting some levels up into $20 or $25 a share. Why is TSSI looking so bullish? Well, if you look at their total site solutions is what they're called, they're configuring the data centers that are required to be configured properly. You can have the data centers, on one hand, you got the actual construction, the other hand, you got the GPUs, but then you actually have the programming. You got to program the data center. And so a lot of people, this might be a little techie, it might scare you a little bit when you see this technical jargon and these types of things. Guess what? You're not the only one. It also scares the big tech companies. They see, oh my gosh, modular edge services, configuring these data centers, that seems hard. We might not have the skill set. TSSI, Total Site Solutions, says, hey, we'll do it for you. We'll set it up for you. And not only that, they are a very small market cap. We've seen them nearly double in market cap, though, since we started covering them. They've gone from, about $5 a share to now $11 a share. And their market cap's just $329 million when they did over $300 million this past year with a balance sheet of about $65 million. It makes sense. It was let's see, 150 million, then 200 million. Yeah, they're on track to do about 250 to $300 million in revenue, and pretty tight net income. Some of them even positive on the quarter, positive net income, which means they're not operating really at a loss, and that's indicating, at least on an annual basis, look at that hockey stick, the growth. It's because the data centers that are being built need that configuration. So I really like TSSI. I'm actually a long-term holder. So you can see that's why they're on the list. They still have some margins to offer, and we've seen them sell down pretty large. Now, of course, I'm not going to pretend that, just because we're covering them, they're going up. Luckily, there's been numerous positions, almost a dozen, that we've been able to capture this last year that have gone over 100%. However, it doesn't always play that way in the market. You might have some Greenland tensions. You might have some Venezuelan tensions or tariff tensions. But at the end of the day, you got so much growing in the AI market. You got so much energy demand, so much data center demand, that I believe these markets are going to continue to do very well into the next year or so. That's why we have the list here. You can see some other stocks. You got Wolf stock, you got ANET, you got CoreWeave, which is another one. And these are just some of the top data center builders. If you've got some other ones, comment them down below. The other thing to look at inside Prophecy app, which I've been using quite often, is let's look at some of the top data center cloud. You got IREN, Equix. Oracle's another one to watch. Meta has been building some data centers. Amazon, those are the bigger tech ones. But just from a smaller tech company perspective, what we just covered, some good ones to watch here. So guys, appreciate you all. Thanks so much for tuning in. Hopefully I earned your thumbs up. If you want to tune on in, see our daily live trading at Market Open tomorrow. It's the second link in the description to see our entries and see our exits there Monday through Friday. It's early in the morning. You got to commit to get up early in the morning, but we've got dozens of investors, hundreds of investors that tune on in there every morning. And we've had some really good insights along with targets for the week. So if you want to go grab those, again, it's the second link below in the description. If you want to transform your financials, transform how you invest, find some of these markets like data centers, drone tech, defense markets, nuclear, maybe it's robotics, maybe it's space tech, maybe it's quantum computing, maybe it's the top aviation, or even some of the political profits, some of those Congress people that are investing, then I'd encourage you, don't miss out on some of this defense boom or the space boom or the AI boom. Have a second to just simply take a look at the first link below for Prophecy AI. Join that first access list, and I would love to see you there. Thanks so much. Again, if I earned it, hit the like button. Do consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.